The Bowl of Pripyat by Verastahl. When I first opened the yellow envelope that contained the journal of Alexei Petrovich, my first thought that it was a mistake or a joke. It was clearly an old journal, and as I flipped through its pages, I saw that it was filled with a small, cramped handwriting that I didn't recognize at first. You see, the words were in Russian, and I don't know any Russian. But as I paused at random and began studying a page, I felt my hands start to tingle. It was as though a mild current was passing through the journal, causing my fingers to clamp tighter on the plastic cover of the book. I wasn't just looking at the words. I was reading them. It was an account of how the strange past few weeks and how this man, Alexei, was considering talking to his uncle in Kiev about them coming to live there, at least for a while. There was more, but it was lost in a growing haze of confusion and fear. These words, all in a language I shouldn't understand, but was somehow able to read, looked like they were written in my handwriting. The journal had come without a return address or any kind of accompanying note or explanation. It had just been pushed through my mail slot one day when I was away at work. I asked my neighbors if they had seen anyone leaving me an envelope, but no one had. I actually waited until the next day to try reading the journal again. My delay mainly born out of my fear and reluctance at confirming that something so strange had come into my life. I half hoped when I picked up the journal again, I'd be unable to make any sense of it at all. Instead, I began comfortably reading it from the first page. It seems that Alexei had originally started the journal in October of 1984, after receiving the book as a gift from his mother. Like happens for so many people, the entries started out regular, before quickly petering out of nothing as his interest waned. Those first writings covered a period from when he got the journal until December of 1985. And that whole 14 months only amounted to 7 entries, 2 of which when he was sad and 1 of which when he was drunk. It felt strange and somehow wrong reading this man's inner thoughts and feelings, even when they were put down in such a sparse and perfunctory fashion. It wasn't though he was bearing his soul that much, but I still felt uneasy when he started morosely talking about disappointing his father, who apparently had named him after an old Russian Tsarevich, who was tortured and killed by his own father, according to the internet, or how he really liked this girl who had moved to town a few months earlier. It wasn't until January 1986 that the entries started to grow more frequent, and there seemed to be several reasons for this. For one, he got engaged to that girl he liked. For another, he got a promotion on his job. He was now the shift supervisor at the number 3 and 4 light water reactors at the power plant. The power plant was named Chernobyl. The third reason he was writing more was to document his growing concerns, not about the impending nuclear accident, of which he knew nothing from his perspective in time, but the strange attacks that had started near Pripyat recently. I could feel his fear and worry as I read his words. 4 people had been killed, and Alexei believed that the government was somehow involved. On January 21st, 1985, Alexei writes a long entry describing a story he heard from a coworker, and something he saw with his own eyes. Rather than try to paraphrase it, I have reproduced my best translation of this excerpt below. I have never known Luka to be a liar. A cheat at cards, yes, but not dishonest in things that matter. And when he told me about the Bowl of Pripyat, I knew he wasn't lying. He was too afraid for it to be anything other than the truth. He said, as we all know, that there are certain work tunnels in other areas underneath portions of Pripyat. Some say it is a bomb shelter, others say it's for certain important people to travel between the town and the plant. Luka says it's for government things, the chief of which is the Bowl of Pripyat. According to Luka, He had an older brother who worked on the plans for where to place the reactor and the nuclear city of Pripyat. The location was chosen because of something that was found there years earlier in a cavern deep below. They called it the Bowl of Pripyat. It was a gigantic metallic bowl that stood as high as a tall man and as wide as two Wartburg 353s. It appeared to be empty at first, but over time it was discovered that the bottom would sometimes fill with a strange liquid. You could stir and shift the liquid, but attempting to remove any was somehow impossible, and anyone who touched the liquid seemed to go immediately and permanently insane. You would think this would cause people to stay away from the bowl, but, as my father used to say, appetite comes with eating. The mystery and danger of the artifact caused it to become a highly prized commodity among those with power. The building of the plant and the city were the perfect cover, as no one would pay attention to a few extra trucks or men coming in and out of the area in the dead of night. Lucas says that his brother never saw the bowl, but two of his workers had. They had come back and told Lucas' brother strange tales of what was happening in the dark, deep cavern in the earth, and it was clear that they were terrified. The next day, his brother received notice that the two men had been transferred elsewhere, and he never heard from them again. Though the thought of all of this was scary and exciting, but at the time, I had no intention of investigating it further. I'm no brain, but I know better than to poke a sleeping bear. Still, over the next few weeks, I would find a certain patch of woods as I passed by on my way to and from work. Out in a clearing, half a kilometer from the road, there was a large concrete pillar that ended in a heavy metal grate. I had always assumed it was some kind of ventilation for tunnels underneath, but before Luca's story, it had always been a mild curiosity at best. Still, I stayed away. When the attack started last month, my mind immediately went to the Bowl of Pripyat. This may seem foolish to some. While Pripyat only has small crimes usually, it is not unheard of for someone to be attacked or even killed. But this was different. One of the bodies I've seen myself, and the others I've heard tell of, and the way they were burned and changed, it seems unnatural. People, good and sensible people, started talking about witchcraft and curses, or possibly some kind of nav. But my mind went to the thing I had come to believe lay beneath us. Tonight, when I was walking home, my eyes went to that patch of forest again. My feet froze to the spot as I saw something looking back at me. It was tall, half again as tall as a large man, and even obscured by the trees and shadow. I could tell it had an unnatural shape, unlike that of any person or animal I knew. It did not move, but simply watched me as I gathered up the courage to run back home as quickly as I could. Every step I ran, I expected to be my last. The thing would catch me from behind and drag me away. They would find my body as they had the others, cracked, charred, and bloated with some bones that no longer seemed to fit together right. But nothing happened. Creature in the house since. I'm writing this to not only make a record, but to help me decide if I should talk to others about it as well. I do not wish to be thought a fool, but I also do not wish others getting hurt if I know I could help them. I have talked to some of the other men in the village, and to my surprise, no one laughed. Others have seen and heard things themselves, it seems, and while none of us mentioned the rumors about the bowl or the cavern, we all seem to be in agreement that some kind of monster is plaguing our woods. After some discussion, they have agreed to handle it without notifying any officials. They're forming a hunting party tonight, and have asked me to go along. I'm not good with a rifle, but I will still go. I feel this is important and necessary to keep us all safe. There continue to be more entries after this, but they're usually short and typically detail their efforts to hunt this creature. Over the next 2 months, 3 more people are killed, and the hunting party is going out every night with no success. Then there's a brief paragraph that says there was a citywide assembly held by government officials. The townsfolk were told to stop all hunting activities, that this was a government matter that was being investigated. Anyone found outside of town at night, aside from going to and from work at the plant, would risk arrest and punishment. The next one was the last entry written by Alexei, and was clearly hastily done, with the man's normally precise handwriting, so much like my own, being replaced with the slanting cursive I use when I'm in a rush. The date of the entry was April 27th, 1986, the day after the Chernobyl disaster. The plant is still burning. They say it was started with reactor 4. Everyone is afraid of getting sick from the radiation. Many people want to leave, but others say the radiation goes with the wind, and we are safer here. I say that it doesn't matter, because the whole thing is a lie. Last week we started hunting party again. The military was doing nothing and our people kept dying, so we resolved to act. The night before last, a group of us went on patrol, and for the first time, we'd found what we were looking for. I wish now, though, that we hadn't. The creature was standing over the body of a woman, though between her condition and the dark, I couldn't have said who it was. And in the commotion of the past 2 days, I still haven't learned. It looked up at us, and in the glow of our lights, we saw it fully, God, but we saw it too well. It was tall and slender, with a long, wide head that trailed off into thick ribbons of twitching flesh that seemed to move on their own, coiling and writhing around its spindly arms and legs like puppet strings. Its torso was a ruined, misshapen mass of bone and meat, with several openings that showed the black, glistening turmoil of its relentlessly churning insides. The worst parts were its eyes and skin, though for wholly different reasons. The skin, I would have to call its skin a kind of yellow, though it was strangely shining shade that seemed wrong somehow. Just looking at how it glowed in the light made my stomach quiver, and something inside my head shift uneasily. As for its eyes, they looked almost human. Beyond their large size and light purple hue, they were intelligent eyes. Eyes filled with knowledge and emotion. And it was looking at us with equal parts of curiosity and contempt. We tried to fight it, but as it stepped forward, most of the men dropped their weapons and fell to the ground, jerking like they were in throes of a fit. I felt my father's shotgun fall from my grasp as I sank to my knees. I wanted to close my eyes, to not watch this horrible thing approach and kill us, but I was transfixed. As the men around me grew more violent in their thrashings, I started to hear the first of several dull cracks as they broke their own backs and necks one by one. As for me, the monster stopped in front of me and squatted down, studying me with what might have been mild amusement on a more human face. After a few moments, it snaked out a speckled orange tongue and ran it up my face. As it finished, it spoke a single word. Selah. Either my revulsion and fear overcame its control over me, or the creature chose to release me. Either way, I ran back to town as quick as I could. Within 2 hours we were packed and ready to go to Kiev, invitation from my uncle or not, but that's when the soldiers came, telling us there had been a fire at the plant and that no one was allowed to leave for the time being. I am trying to keep up a brave face for my wife-to-be, my beautiful Elena, but I am terrified, afraid of the radiation if the fires are real, to be sure, but more afraid of the thing this accident is meant to cover up, the thing that touched me and gave me these troubling thoughts and dreams, because while I have slept little in the last 2 days, what sleep I've had has been strange and troubled, and I find my waking hours invaded by memories and thoughts that are not my own, of a life that is not my own. In that life, I'm an American man named Brian, and it seems to be many years in the future, young and successful. That life is easier in some ways and harder in others. I have a family there, a job, thoughts and dreams that are both alien to me and undeniably familiar. I cannot say for sure if I am forgetting Alexei or remembering Brian, but either way it makes me both happy and terrified, as though I delight at the thought of being eradicated and made new. Perhaps it is radiation sickness, but I fear it is something worse, some hex placed on me that vile creature in the woods gave me. I fear what his corruption might be doing to me, and God help me, I fear that it might stop. My name is Brian Favors, and I no longer think all of this is some strange coincidence or magical happenstance. I believe anything that Alexei wrote down, and I know he wasn't crazy, or if he was, then so am I, because I'm beginning to remember things too. Things from Alexei's life that were never in the journal. The look of mild surprise and pride on my father's face when I told him of my promotion. The smell of my sweet Elena's hair when I held her close. The feel of that rotten thing's tongue as it raked roughly up my face and somehow unmoored me and my counterpoint from normal reality and time. I still remember being Brian, but it's harder now. The memories of both men swim around each other like hungry fishes vying for scraps of my attention. They shove and crowd each other until it's sometimes hard to see clearly. I should think I'm going crazy, but I don't think I am. And much like Alexei, or Brian, in the journal, I don't know that I want it to stop. I write all of this with the hope it'll clear my mind, at least somewhat. I post it with the hope I can receive advice as to what I should do next. I'm strongly considering traveling to Ukraine. Pripyat has become a tourist attraction of all things, and while the trip will be costly, it may be that I could find answers there. But will the answers I find help ease my troubled mind, or only give me more questions? For, as my father always said, appetite comes with eating.